Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I'll sit here. Well, I'd like to start off by thanking the organisers for giving us the opportunity to hold this fireside chat. And by way of starting this, I'd like to give Paweł, CEO of Selvita, a few seconds to introduce himself so that we all know a little bit about the man himself before we deal with the topic.
Great. So my name is Paweł Przewięźlikowski. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of a Kraków-based oncology and drug discovery company called Selvita. We are 470 people in Kraków, Poznań, Cambridge, UK, Cambridge, US, and in San Bruno in California. We have a drug discovery services business and an innovative oncology pipeline and an artificial intelligence bioinformatics focused company called Artigen.
Well, my name is Roland Kozłowski, and I'm holding this fireside chat. And I'm basically a mentor, investor, and company director with 25 years life science industry experience and board level experience. Thank you. So delving straight into the topic, Selvita is working in the small molecule space. Now we all know that the trend at the moment is immunotherapy. And the majority of the assets that are being pushed forward by big pharma are in that space. Selvita is producing small molecules. It's still in the relatively early stages of development. Its products, Selvita's products, will hit the market maybe in 5-7 years' time. How will those products compete with the new immunotherapeutic agents, which will also be hitting the market at that time?
Well, we'll simply be newer. So the major immuno-oncology players such as the US Merck or BMS are heavily invested in small molecules themselves as well. So for example, Merck has a small molecule STING agonist. BMS has heavily invested into IDO pathway. So, it's not like, antibodies in IONC are the future and small molecules are the past. I sometimes give an analogy that in order to influence a human, you just cannot rely on kicking him or her in the butt or massage. Sometimes you have to go inside their brains, and it works the same with cells. So if you want to regulate the immune system, you can, for example, stimulate interferon production with a STING agonist, small molecule STING agonist, or you can regulate the activity of dendritic cells or T cells with HPK kinase inhibitor. So there are intercellular targets that are amenable only to small molecules. On the other hand, there are some pathways which are very interesting in immuno-oncology, such as adenosine pathway, where you have things like A2A, A2B, CD39, CD73, and the world is just trying to figure out whether best attack it with a small molecule or an antibody. So
where do you think your competitive advantage is with your small molecule therapeutics?
Well, if you focus on Selvita pipeline, our bread and butter is deep understanding of cancer biology. So whether it's a small molecule or an antibody, for us it's of secondary importance. So actually we employ more biologists than chemists at Selvita, so we have very deep understanding of basic cancer machinery, and only then, after we have understood the target environment, tumor microenvironment as much as we can, then we attack it with the right tool. So in order to capitalize on this understanding of cancer biology, we are also introducing to Selvita a new biologic-based drug discovery platform. That's official. That's one of the targets of our secondary public offering that we conducted in February. So we feel good about diversity of modalities.
Okay, that's very interesting. With these days, as a small company or even a larger company such as yours moves forward, invariably it's thinking about partnering. And no doubt you've done many business presentations, had many meetings. And I've noticed through my own experience that often when working in the oncology space, it's absolutely essential to have alongside your core asset a biomarker strategy. And it's practically impossible to license or partner without appropriate biomarkers to underpin your clinical studies. So my question to you is, what's your experience been with Selvita within the biomarker space, and how have you dealt with the strategic aspects of having a biomarker strategy?
So, well, it depends on the program. So, for example, in our clinical stage, dual PIM-FLT3 inhibitor SEL24, which is currently in phase 1 studies in AML in the US, we've relied on established biomarkers such as phospho-6 or 4-EBP1 that have been used historically by other companies to measure the target inhibition of in patients. And we have to understand first which patients we want to target. So, for example, whether we should be preferentially targeting people with overexpression of CD25 mutations in FLT3, and then as we treat the patient with our drug, obviously we kind of measure the outcome of treatment and future prognosis by measuring the downstream targets of our drugs. And such a decision, whether to continue treatment, whether to kind of put patient on another drug, can be a life-saving decision. So it's absolutely critical to use them. In the second program, a selective CDK8 inhibitor, SEL120, also an AML drug, the question is completely different. So basically, we need to target patients with the right level of so-called minimal residual disease, and the biomarkers for this are completely different. So we have 5 people working at Selvita because some of these biomarkers have not been fully established or validated, to design and develop the right biomarkers for our future clinical trial.
Okay, that's very interesting. So in terms of giving advice to some budding oncology companies, if there are any in the audience, what would you tell them to go for using established biomarkers, or try and develop a unique biomarker strategy of their own? Or is that too costly for a small company?
Well, you want to keep it simple. So if there is an established biomarker, industry-grade established biomarker, I would go for this. If it's novel, then you have to develop, but it kind of multiplies the risk of your drug discovery program.
Okay. You mentioned some comments about which lead me to in the direction of personalized medicine. This is something that's coming up all the time in the industry. The genetics behind individuals are becoming more and more apparent, clear, obtainable. What impact is personalized medicine going to have on Selvita, on your programs, on your sales and marketing strategy if you go the distance in 7 years' time? Is it going to result in a fragmentation of your market, or do you think you'll be able to in some way tailor your products to take advantage of the personalized medicine agenda?
Sure. So I think that the general macroeconomic trend is that we are going to see more drug approvals. So my personal estimate is that will go up from about 50 new molecular entities which are approved currently per year in the US to about 100 in 10 years, which will mean further market segmentations, more personalized approaches for patients. No one drug fits all. Over the last years, with the immuno-oncology wave, some people thought it no longer applies. We'll just give checkpoints to everybody, but now there are some disappointments. So actually, for example, at last ASCO, many immuno-oncology players that were targeting broader patient populations that were not so sensitive about, for example, patient stratification, have disappointed with their clinical trial data, and very focused companies such as Dicerna or Loxo or Ignita have shown very, very good data from small trials with 30, 50 patients with a clear road to approval, multiple billion-dollar valuations, just because they focused on good old cancer genomics. So, there is a place for both. So 1 year ago, maybe the wave and what you got in Forbes or Fierce Biotech, etc., everything was PD-1, PD-L1. Now it's red, and other mutations. In 3 or 4 years, it may be SMARCA. So, cancer is complicated and there is no single way to, eradicate it. So we have to play on multiple instruments.
But certainly I think using genetics to create a targeted population for clinical development, clinical trials is certainly going to enhance the likelihood of success if that can be achieved.
Great.
Well, changing direction ever so slightly, we've talked a little bit about the science. Selvita has been a very bold company. It's the most significant player in Poland. And you moved to the US. So can you tell us something about your strategy for internationalization? This is a hot topic in Poland. Why you did it, what were the motivating factors, any lessons that you've learned?
The US, of course, and to some extent Western Europe are, of course, the pioneering markets for new science or new paradigms of treating patients. So if you want to know whether your product, whether your idea has legs, you have to meet US-based scouts, US-based pharmaceutical licensors, and this is what we have been doing from the very beginnings of Selvita. So we are doing the first trial in the US to be closer to clinicians with significant phase 1 experience. That was until last year not possible in Poland, closer to the regulatory agencies such as FDA and the most sophisticated investors who tell us sometimes, please prioritize this, please prioritize that. I really appreciate their feedback. So it's very important for us. And from licensing perspective, Selvita was a very demand-driven company. So we started the company back in July 2007, and already in November 2007, no labs, no programs, nothing. We are already meeting with pharma clients, potential clients, such as, Bayer, Merck, and others, and we are asking them, what do you want to buy? Yes, and this is exactly what we are trying to look for in the Polish academia, what we are trying to focus our fantastic research team on, and it kind of worked out, yes. But over these 11 years, we've been a part of about 70, 80 partnering conferences. At each of them we had about between 30 and 60 meetings, so more than 2,000 one-on-one meetings in the history of Selvita in total. And from these 2,000 meetings we got 8 deals. So imagine, for one deal for each 200 initial partnering meetings. So it takes a lot of time, resilience.
I'm very pleased that you said that, because I think a lot of young entrepreneurs in Poland don't realize the amount of effort that it takes to strike a deal. We have 5 seconds left. What advice would you give to those people in the audience that want to start a drug discovery company? You have 10 seconds.
Be brave, resilient, and keep your scientists happy.
Thank you. Well, I enjoyed talking to you very much.
Thank you very much.